Peter is our new head of housing for South Cambs. So he's come in. Obviously, it's a really easy job, not much complexity at all. So yeah, I'll let him introduce himself and give you an update.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the invite. I realised I've made one mistake, and that was taking my fashion tips and got my hairstyle and beard from Andrew. Maybe not the best start, but as part of my job, I'm also responsible for delivering the community buildings within Northstowe. So a very brief update on these for the 3 buildings. First of all, the pavilion. We've got some outline designs, and it's our plan to get to submit planning application within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We've had a pre-application already submitted, and we're working on the feedback from the planning department on the design, which has been incorporated. We're hoping to get that sorted off, signed off soon. The second site is, of course, the community centre. This is more complicated, as L&Q covered previously. The land is currently being up for sale, and working with an intended purchaser. It's fair to say that we've got some challenges in delivering the community centre. We've got some designs. We know what's needed through the Section 106 agreement, and we know how much money there is to pay for the in the pot to pay for the schemes, and we recognise that there's a gap. We have got some ideas of how to fill that gap, but unfortunately the timing is poor, and I'm unable to provide the details on that at the moment. But hopefully it'll be resolved by next time we meet, and I'll feed back then, and I'll certainly make sure that Sarah knows as soon as we've got a response to that. The third site is the Civic Hub. This is going to be a feature of the town centre. We have had some meetings about this with some of the intended occupants, including the health service via the CCG and other stakeholders. And we're working with Homes England. We're just waiting from Homes England some details of the red line, so the area which the Civic Hub can occupy, and then we're able to come with more detailed ideas of what the site will include. So that's my quick update of the community buildings. I've kept it brief on purpose, but I've tried to give you the facts as we know it. Just moving on then to some of the questions that have been asked. I'll try and group some of these together. Is that some of them, a lot of the questions are to do with the shops or the commercial centre and the community centre, and I'm afraid I can't really cover those at the moment until we know what's going on with the sale of the land. The other questions I've got is about community buildings and aware that the proposal to amend the completion times. My understanding of that is the commitment was to get the planning permission sought by a trigger which is driven by the completion of occupation of a certain number of properties. And I understand that we're on target to meet that certainly for the pavilion. And there's a question about the sustainability hub. I'm not quite sure what building that refers to. Certainly it's something that I'll feed back to Claire and her team to make sure that they're aware of that need and it's incorporated or certainly thought of in one of the community buildings. So that's the community buildings from what I know. There was a question earlier on the chat about people applying for social housing in the area. I know it was asked to our colleagues from BPHA. But within the area, and certainly within the county, there is a system called HomeLink. And every property, every social housing, including council properties and housing associations, are let by the HomeLink system. So if you have a search for HomeLink, you can get the details there. But what I suggest is that at the next meeting with this forum, I'll invite one of my colleagues to come along to give a full introduction into HomeLink and allow you to ask any questions that you may have on the way that properties are allocated. If anyone's got any specific questions or personal questions which is inappropriate to ask in an open forum, you can email me. My email address is peter.campbell@scams.gov.uk, and I'll make sure that they're dealt with promptly. And I'm sure that Sarah will remind you of the email address if you forget that. And if there's any further questions, of course, I'll take those.
Yeah, we've had a few. So I think there's been some comments about obviously the fact that we've had to cover money for the community buildings because obviously what was in Section 106 wasn't enough. I don't know if you want to make a comment on that.
It's difficult for me to make a comment at the moment because we've got plans, we've got an idea in place, which I'm hoping will come to fruition shortly, but we've not yet dotted the I's and crossed the T's. So as soon as that, fingers crossed, that'll come to fruition in the next few weeks, I'll make sure that you're updated straight away, Sarah, and hopefully we can. I don't want to jinx it by promising something we're not going to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan, on your question on the community centre, again, that's Peter's answer. So things are happening that we are not able to talk about, but as soon as we are able to talk about them, we will talk about them and give you the details. But just to say, obviously, that the Section 106 agreement was signed, I mean, many years ago, obviously, before we became district councillors. Most of us were involved in Northstowe, so the original people that were involved aren't necessarily on this forum call, but the council has had to put in a lot of its own money to fill up the pot that we actually need to use to build out the community buildings. So I think that's pretty much it. Again, thank you very much. I think it's Libby for putting in Peter's email on the chat, so he's there if you need him. Obviously, you can email Alex and I if you've got any questions as well. So thank you very much for that, Peter.